Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, hi, my name is Gabby and welcome. If you've never been here before, never watched any of my videos, have no idea what I do, I cover true crime cases, and all the cases that I cover are a little bit older. They're all basically 20 years or older, so if that's something that you might be interested in, maybe go down below, click that subscribe button, and also make sure to turn on the post notifications to be notified every time that I upload. So we have entered November, and here on my channel for November, I always do a series called No Trace November, where I cover cases of people who have mysteriously vanished. We do not know where they are. We do not know what happened to them. Sometimes there are clues, sometimes there are none. Today's case fits this month's series to a T because there really is no trace with this one. I recently came across this case and put it on my list of cases to cover this month, and coincidentally, when I checked my email for other cases to add to the list, I saw an email from someone requesting me to cover it. The email was from Stacy, who runs the YouTube channel Dark Horse, and she did an entire video on this case as well, but was wondering if I could cover it here on my channel to spread the word of it even more. She received a lot of information for her video from one of the victim's best friends, and for today's video, I will be using some of her information and also information that I came across online, mostly from newspaper articles. Thank you, Stacy, for the request and the help. With all that being said, let's get right into it. This is the disappearance of Michele Reidenbach. Michele Reidenbach, nicknamed Shelly, was born on December 29th of 1964 and was the youngest of 7 children living in Harmony, Pennsylvania. Harmony is a borough in Butler County and sits roughly 30 miles north of the buzzing city of Pittsburgh. Harmony had a population of a little over 1,300 during the very early 1980s when this case took place. It was perfect for anyone that wanted a more quiet lifestyle, but could easily access the hustle and bustle of the nearby city. The Reidenbach family home resided at 248 Mercer Street in this quaint town. Now, as for Michele, she was described as being extremely intelligent. She was both book smart and street smart. She was kind, she had a lot of friends, and she was insanely caring for her family. This would be proven true through the devotion she had for her older sister during one of the most difficult times in her life. In July of 1981, Michele's older sister, Shelly, 31 at the time, who she was especially close to, suffered a massive stroke that left her paralyzed. Almost every time Michele's mother, Gloria, went to see Shelly in the hospital, Michele would accompany her. It was heartbreaking for Michele to see her sister like this, but her sister was resilient and making quick progress, especially after starting physical therapy. During late September of 1981, when this case takes place, Michele was 16 years old and was a senior at Seneca Valley High School. She had also recently began working part-time at a store called Melden, where she made mailers. Melden was an appliance store located in the 200 block of South Main Street in Zelienople, a town only roughly a mile southwest of Harmony. There were so many things that Michele was excited about in life, things she was planning for. One being her goal to attend the Bradford School in Pittsburgh after graduating high school so she could become a secretary. She and her friend Kim had plans to attend together. Unfortunately, all she may have become in life is a mystery as well. The date was Tuesday, September 22nd of 1981, and it was a rainy, chilly morning. Before heading to school, Michele said goodbye to her mother, who was at the time heading to her job at Accutran, which is a manufacturing company in Fombelle, Pennsylvania, an area roughly 3 miles west of their home in Harmony. One of Michele's close friends picked her up from her home and they headed to school at 7:45 a.m. Michele woke up that morning feeling a bit under the weather, but decided to suck it up and get ready anyway because it was class picture day at school. Michele took her photos for the day, but one of her best friends, Beth Staub, had hers scheduled later on that afternoon. At 3:30 p.m. on the after-school bus that took Michele to her job, Michele helped Beth do her hair for the photos. She also let Beth borrow a hairbrush for her hair if she needed to brush it before the photos, and also a necklace to wear for the photos. Beth promised Michele to give them back after the photos were done. Beth worked at the Gulf gas station right nearby, and the two of them freshened up Beth's makeup in the bathroom of the station. According to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Beth was quoted saying, "She was in a good mood. She helped me get ready for the picture in the bathroom of the Gulf station where I worked. I borrowed a brush and a necklace from her, and she asked me to bring them right back after I had the picture taken." Michele set off to work after helping Beth in the bathroom. Beth had no idea that that would be the last time she ever saw her friend. Michelle arrived at work, and that day she was actually working without one of her really good friends, also her coworker, Kim Charlier, who was sick and had called out for the day. Michelle had only been working at Melden for a very short period of time. As her boss, Fred Landy, would tell the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Michelle had only spent 4 days working for us. We just hired her off the street to address letters part-time for our mailings. She was a really good kid and a pleasant girl. Definitely something happened because she was dependable. A little before 4:30 p.m., Kim calls into Melden to see how everything's going for the day. Michelle informs her that she's not feeling so well herself and that she was going to take a walk up to Rite Aid about a block away to pick up some cold medicine. Michelle takes her break at 4:30 p.m. and walks to Rite Aid, which resided at 134 South Main Street. It was verified by a store cashier that she made it inside, purchased the cold medicine, and left. We know that this trip to Rite Aid was supposed to be a short one taken during her break, and then by the time her break was over, she was set to be back at the store. But she never made it back, or so we believe. It is also believed that Michelle had just brought the money to purchase the cold medicine because she left behind her purse, school books, and also her cigarettes. These items were all later found at Melden. Now, when I first came across this little detail about her leaving her cigarettes behind, this immediately stuck out to me as proof that she was not planning on being gone too long. Anyone who is an avid smoker, like she was described as being, usually decides to smoke a cigarette during their breaks at work. The people closest to Michelle stated that she always brought her cigarettes everywhere with her because of how often she smoked. So if she left them, she was definitely planning on returning soon. They stated that yes, she wasn't feeling too well that day, but she wasn't feeling great earlier in the day either, and she was still seen smoking. At 4:55 p.m., Gloria, Michelle's mother, was on her way home from her work and decided to stop in real quick at Melden to see her daughter. But Michelle was not there, so Gloria decided to simply head home. A little time goes by and Gloria calls Melden to speak to her daughter because she was hoping Michelle would go with her to St. Francis Hospital to visit Sherry. The line was busy. Gloria was confused and decided to make her way to the store. She gets to the store and Michelle is still not there. Gloria finds it a bit odd, but she doesn't think much more of it. She considers that her daughter may possibly be off doing something else, that it was just a case of missed connections. Gloria decides to head to the hospital on her own. It would later be found out that during the break from work on her way to Rite Aid, Michelle's boss saw Michelle in the parking lot of the Super Duper supermarket adjacent from Melden. He claimed that he saw her talking to someone in a red car, and it seemed like she was friendly with the person, like she possibly knew them quite well. This did not strike him as odd, so he didn't think to get a license plate number, and he didn't get a close look at who was in the car. He went back to the store and Michelle never showed back up. According to him, he figured she simply wasn't feeling well and decided to leave for the day. Another person that she spoke to while in the parking lot of the Super Duper supermarket was her brother Vince, who worked there. All of Michelle's belongings were left behind though, like I stated before, and she had left files out she had been working on. She definitely was planning on returning to work. Not long after Gloria had stopped by and Fred had seen her in the parking lot, Beth stopped by before work to drop off Michelle's brush and necklace. Michelle wasn't there, and Fred informs Beth that Michelle had received a phone call earlier, believed to be the one from Kim, left the store, and had not returned. Beth finds this to be peculiar behavior for her friend, but hopes to see her later to return her items. Hours passed, and Vince arrived back to the family home around 11 p.m. without his sister. He informs his mother that she wasn't there when he went to pick her up after work like he usually does. They all begin to worry. This was unlike Michelle to leave her loved ones wondering where she was. Gloria considers that maybe Michelle is planning on spending the night at a friend's home, so she decides to phone some of her friends, starting with Beth. Beth is in disbelief that her friend's whereabouts are still unknown. She tells Gloria that Michelle is not with her and that the last time she had seen her earlier in the day was when Michelle helped her with her hair on the bus and makeup in the bathroom of the Gulf gas station. That she tried to return the items to her later on, but she wasn't at work when she went there. Beth had actually been at work earlier when Michelle's boyfriend of a year showed up frustrated, asking where Michelle was. He informed Beth that he was supposed to pick Michelle up after work to go out, but when he went to Meldon, she wasn't there, and he figured that possibly she forgot about their plans and went out with a friend instead. Beth let him know that she hadn't seen her either, and Michelle also wasn't at Meldon when she went earlier. Gloria spoke to Kim on the phone as well, and Kim let her know that she didn't go to work because she was feeling a bit sick. And it seems Michelle was starting to come down with something as well while at work, and the last time she spoke to her, it seemed like she was planning on heading to Rite Aid to pick up some cold medicine. Gloria cannot believe the current situation at hand. Her daughter is missing, has been missing for hours and hours, and no one close to her has seen her anywhere. That she seemed to have left work, accomplished what she set out to do during her break, but never returned back to work. Gloria decides that it is time to notify the police. She contacted the Zelienople police, and they inform her that she has to wait at least 48 hours before she can report her daughter missing. She is crushed. She knows that most teenagers do show back up within the 48-hour period, and she hopes for the best, but knows that something terrible must have happened. She waits the 48 hours, each hour feeling like an eternity. It hits the 48-hour mark, and she is finally able to file the missing persons report for Michelle. Now, I'm sure many of you already know, most of the time when it comes to disappearance cases involving primarily teenagers, authorities are quick to lock in on the runaway theory. But based on the information at hand regarding her disappearance, the runaway theory was quickly ruled out. As it would be covered in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Gloria was quoted saying she wasn't the type to run away. There were no problems at home. Even though Shelly was upset by her sister's illness, her sister was recently discharged from the hospital, and we'd just started to get into a physical therapy program. The article goes on to state that Zelienople Police Chief Lou Pizer also doubted that Michelle ran away. He said the circumstances surrounding her disappearance are not similar to runaway cases. Pizer went on to say how no calls had been made to anyone by Michelle since she vanished, and she did not confide in any of her family members or friends that she had a desire to up and leave her old life behind. If someone was going to run away, they would most likely bring money with them. And we do know that Michelle had left behind $100 that she had been saving up for her class ring. When Kim spoke to police, she was very adamant that Michelle told her everything, and she would have never ran away from her loved ones. She stated that Michelle was always very courteous and always let her mother know where she was going to be. Kim's birthday was the week before Michelle went missing, and they spent the entire day together. As it got later in the day, they decided that they wanted to prolong the birthday fun and go out to see a movie and then grab some food. Michelle tried to phone home and no one answered, so they actually hopped in the car, drove to Michelle's home. Michelle left a note for her mother to see when she arrived home, detailing the change in plans for the night, and then they headed out. That is how much Michelle cared when it came to preventing her mother from worrying. When it comes to the initial investigation, police decided their best bet was to conduct a thorough search of the towns of Zelienople and Harmony. Over 150 members of the public came forward to help search for the missing teenager. The search went nearly as far as Fombelle, where Michelle's mother worked. Rivers, creeks, and any wooded areas were also searched. In the end, though, nothing was uncovered from the tireless searching, and no promising information was discovered as a result of missing persons posters being passed around. Multiple tips did come into the department, but none of them got authorities closer to finding out what happened to her. There were a few people closely looked at and intensely questioned, like Michelle's boyfriend and her boss. But after interviews and polygraphs, these individuals would be ruled out as having any involvement in her disappearance. Both her boyfriend and her boss did seem to be cooperative when it came to the investigation. Gloria tried everything she could to locate her daughter, even speaking to supposed psychics, but no one offered up any helpful information. She would tell the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, "I visited a fortune teller to see if there was some lead we could follow. I'm not even sure I believe in that sort of thing, but it's just getting too long and you can just think of too many dumb things." Like I stated at the beginning of this video, Michelle was described as being street smart. She was not someone who would have gotten into a vehicle or left with someone she did not know, which is why people think that whoever she left with had to have been someone she knew very well. Also, from my understanding, her stop in the parking lot where she spoke to her brother and the unknown individual in the red car happened before her stop at Rite Aid. So it wasn't believed that she left with the individual in that red car, or at least not at that time. The person with the red car never came forward, and I couldn't find any information when it came to any of her close friends who drove a car that fit that vague description given by her boss. The area she disappeared from is also a business district. There had been quite a lot of people out and about that day, so if she had been forced into a vehicle by someone, she would have put up a fight, she would have screamed. It is hard to believe that no one would have seen anything. She had been walking on a main street. This is why it was believed, and still believed to this day, that whoever took her was someone she knew. A $5,000 reward was posted for anyone that helped lead them to her whereabouts or helped locate her remains. Again, tips came in, but none of them got them any closer to finding out what happened. It was really the first few months that were the hardest for the Reidenbach family. Michele disappeared right before the holiday season, so they had to go through the holidays without her and sit on her 17th birthday, which was December 29th of 1981, and hope and pray she was still out there somewhere alive and they would find her eventually. Michele's mother fought for years to help solve her daughter's disappearance. In 1989, her mother tried desperately to get her daughter's case on the popular show Unsolved Mysteries. The person she spoke to on the phone when she called told her that there was a long waiting list for cases to be featured on the show, that possibly getting people to sign a petition would result in a better chance of producers picking her case up for an episode. So that is exactly what Gloria did. The petition was heavily signed by people in the area, but unfortunately, Michele's case was never chosen. This was devastating news to the mother, considering she felt like she had tried to do everything she could locally, and possibly taking the case nationwide would finally get them somewhere. 4 more years would pass before there was a semi-update in this case. In 1993, police received a tip they deemed full of promise. They went back over all the details surrounding the disappearance, re-interviewed people, but still in the end, nothing new was discovered. Michele's case remained cold, which is exactly where it remains today. There have been almost no updates in this case since then. Beth and Kim loved Michele and also fought for years to find out what happened to their dear friend. Kim feeling grief-stricken due to calling out of work that day, thinking that maybe if she just went in, things would have gone differently. But of course, there was no way for her to know the tragedy that would arise. Beth, all of these years later, still having the hairbrush and the necklace. Although this case has so little to go off of, it is enough to send one down a rabbit hole. Many look at the business itself that she was working at. In 1985, the owners of the store would face legal trouble when it was discovered they had been selling items under a supposed sale price when they were actually selling these items for full price. Due to this, they had to pay a $3,500 fine. Some speculate whether Michele came across this information and it put her in harm's way. Would this have been enough for anyone to kill her though? That is hard for most to believe. We know that Kim stayed working there after Michele's disappearance and never pointed out having seen any shady business practices herself. Michele's loved ones are confused by her leaving her purse and cigarettes behind, especially the cigarettes, like I stated before. Some consider that possibly she did make it back to Melden that day and something happened at the store. There had been no evidence of a struggle in the store though. Could it have been straightened up beforehand? Or possibly one of her bosses, another employee, or one of the owners convinced her to make a quick work-related run with them somewhere, and then something happened while they were gone. Could one of them have been responsible? It was her boss who was the last known person to have seen her. Of course, though, this is all speculation. With a case like this where there's just so little to go off of, one can definitely start coming up with a million different reasons for why it happened and who may have been responsible. Michele's parents and her boyfriend have since passed away, but her remaining loved ones are still fighting for answers. She had very dark blonde hair and blue eyes. She stood between 5 feet and 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighed between 110 and 120 pounds. She was last seen wearing a wine-colored V-neck sweater, blue jeans, and a gold necklace with a knot on it. She wore eyeglasses. If you have any information regarding her disappearance, you are urged to contact the Zelienople Police Department at 1-724-287-7769 or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST, which is 1-800-843-5678. Remember that you can stay anonymous. So that is all of the information that I have for you today regarding the disappearance of Michele Reidenbach, a girl who had her entire life ahead of her and was never able to see what would come of it. A case that leaves a lot of people considering that it may have been someone she knew very well, and it may be someone who is still in the area to this day. I was reached out to help better spread the word of this case, and I hope that that is exactly what this video does. And I hope that one day someone who knows something will just come forward with that information and give a family some sort of peace. Thank you all for taking a little bit of time out of your day to hear about this case. If you have any other missing persons cases that you possibly want me to cover this month for No Trace November, make sure to send those over to gabulosiscaserequests@gmail.com. If you want to leave a little bit of love down in the comments of this video for anyone who may come across this video who knew Michele firsthand, that would be greatly appreciated. With all that being said, I will see you on the next one.